hello, WRPI Troy listeners, to 91.5 FM, the Upstate Underground. As I promised earlier, like 20 minutes ago, I am here joined with, um, ooh, there we go, with Boston-based shoegaze band Vivid Bloom. So would you guys like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, Gabe. Go ahead. I'm Allison. I'm the drummer for Vivid Bloom.
I'm Tracy, and I play bass.
I'm Liz. I play guitar and do vocals.
I'm Erica. I play guitar and do vocals.
Awesome. And if I'm not mistaken, you guys are performing here in Troy tomorrow night at 7 p.m. at El Dorado Bar, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yep, doors at 7, music at 8.
Awesome. So I guess to kick this interview off, I gotta ask, where does the name Vivid Bloom come from? And I think it fits your music a lot, which is good because I guess that's like the point of a band name. But I feel like it's always just a good first interview question because it's the first thing I see when it's like, oh, you're doing an interview with Vivid Bloom, and so I'm just curious about that.
We'll let Erica and Liz take that one.
Yeah, so as you know, it's really hard to name bands these days. It's like everything is taken, and Erica and I did a lot of brainstorming about like what we wanted the vibe of the project to be, and we sort of like wrote down a list of words that we liked and like how to create a sense of like what we sound like just with words. So we kind of just played around with different combinations, and we settled on Vivid. We're like, yeah, I think this is it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I mean, like I said, totally fits. So I think you guys struck it good there. And I guess so. Then, besides the name inspiration, so I mean, when I introduced you guys, I said you were a shoegaze band, but um, what do you draw from in your music? And would you describe yourself as something more than shoegaze or some derivative of shoegaze?
I would say we're shoegaze adjacent because we all come from different musical backgrounds and we listen to a lot of different music. And, we have like influences of doom metal and some like sludgier sounds, rock, uh, dream pop. So we're just sort of trying to, blend those all together without trying to sound shoegaze or anything like that. Like when we first started writing these songs, we were just getting in a room together and writing, and we didn't aim to be a shoegaze band. We just kind of listened back to what we had recorded and written, and we were like, how would we categorize this? I guess the closest thing would be shoegaze, but it wasn't like the initial intention.
Right.
I have an affinity too for effects pedals and lots of layered sounds, so that I think kind of naturally lends itself to a sort of shoegazy sort of sound too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just comes out naturally. Um, and I guess, um, so I mean, earlier you just said that you guys all come from like different music backgrounds. So I guess, and seeing as how you guys are relatively new, like your first EP only came out last year. Do you guys have like? Could I get a rundown on how like Vivid Bloom formed, and like if you guys have any other like musical background outside of your current project?
Well, we all have been in the Boston music scene for a pretty long time and either knew each other already or, knew each other through friends of friends and things like that. But back in 2021, Liz and I connected when we were at an Alanis Morissette concert together, and we just had a blast and hit it off, and then we started playing music together. Do you want to add to that?
Sure. Yeah, and then as we started playing music, so like Erica is a singer-songwriter and had projects before. I have been in like different kind of metal bands. Tracy's been in like noise rock bands. Allison's been in like Riot Girl inspired bands. So when Erica and I started writing together, we were kind of brainstorming like, who could we invite to this project? Who would like fill out the sound and just like, players and people to hang with? Allison and Tracy. And so once we all got into a room and started just like jamming together, we felt like there was this instant chemistry sonically. And we started writing differently because basically it used to just be like Erica and I in isolation. Like during the pandemic, we were like our little pod, just holed up in the practice space writing songs because otherwise we were just in isolation at home. And then once we all got together in the practice space, we started jamming a lot more. And so, like, the whole ending instrumental part of Out of Focus on the EP, that basically started out as like a 20-minute jam. And we record everything, so we listened back, and then we were like, "Oh, we think there are cool parts here." So we just structured it, and then basically decided to turn it into a 3-minute long instrumental part at the end of a song.
Yeah, I mean, it works beautifully there, and I guess if you don't have anything more to say about the history, we can move on to the EP itself, Out of Focus. And I guess so. My thoughts when I was like listening for it, getting ready for this, is it's like, well, I guess first of all, let me ask you, what do you think the goal was for Out of Focus and your first like debut as Vivid Bloom? Like, what were you trying to put out there first and foremost?
I feel like we were just trying to put out our sound.
Yeah, we just
Yeah.
wanted something.
We wanted to get something out there, and we were all really proud of the work that we did. Like Liz was saying, when we got in the room, it was like this big open idea. You know, it wasn't solidified into anything specific, and so Tracy and I were able to come to it and be like inspired to play something that felt good to us, that we thought was vibing well with what was happening. And like when it magically came together in the room, we were like, yeah, that was it. And that it like felt good and it felt special to us, and we wanted to put that out there with other folks.
Yeah, and we really wanted to capture our as close to like our live sound on the recording and have that essence. So
Yeah.
like it turned out that way, and pretty psyched about it.
Yeah.
The recording really kind of worked too from when we had initially decided to go in and record these songs. I think we were, sort of just, let's just get something out there. We'll lay some sort of basic tracks down and like put them out into the world. And then like as we sort of sat in the room and got into it a little deeper, we were like, well, more layers. What else can we put in here? What else can get added? So it definitely, I think, morphed into a more mature recording project than I think we intended when we like sat down to do it.
Yeah, but then also, it just kind of naturally happened because it gave us more time
Yeah.
to learn how each other play off of each other and to kind of hone our sound.
Yeah, because we had only really been playing together for a few months before we went into the studio, and we had only played like 1 or 2 shows at that point too. So
Yeah, and we wanted it to be just a snapshot of this moment in time of what we sounded like. And so we actually kind of thought about it like we wanted those 3 songs to showcase our range. It's like we have Believe, that's more poppy. Then we have Black Desert, that's more like a doomy kind of brooding song. And then Out of Focus really kind of shows the direction that we're evolving in, where we're kind of thinking more about these like bigger passages in our songwriting and like experimenting with rhythmic things and different texture building and stuff like that.
Yeah, and like what I was gonna say is when I listen to it, I feel like sometimes you listen to an album and it just sounds very homogenous where almost every song blends into each other, but here I felt like it was kind of the opposite, where each different song was like a different like, and I guess based on your description of how what Out of Focus meant to you guys, every song just sounded like a different direction and a different like, I guess like Keystone and Vivid Bloom sound, and I guess the minor. I felt like there's somewhat of a story arc on the EP, very loosely, very not like an experimental album kind of thing, but I felt that like progression, so it shows, which is good, I think.
Thanks. Yeah, we like to take people on a journey. We were concerned. We were like, is this cohesive? But ultimately, I think it is because we're playing it. It's our tone. It's our creativity. And I love when bands mix it up and it's not just like every song sounds the same. So I think as we write more together, we'll sort of blend those influences a bit more seamlessly too. So
Right.
Yeah, I think like the more you play, people like we have tons of influences ourselves. Like we all have our individual things that we're very into, but then like together we make a different sound, and like that is not just one thing, and it doesn't go in just one direction. And I think we're all just pretty open to exploring. Like we have kind of like a core sound that we're going for, and then like what else can come out of that. It's just very creative.
Right. So this is like a sound you want to replicate going forward because part of it also kind of felt like, well, is this just like experimentation in its own way of like, trying different directions and seeing what works. But is it just more like, well, no, this is what we want our music to be. We want it to be, like you said, this journey through different types of sounds and different ways of our creative muse.
Yeah, I think we want it to just kind of be authentic, and whatever that ends up sounding like that feels good to us is where we land.
Yeah, awesome. So one thing I did notice is, in that info document that you handed us for the interview, the descriptions of your songs are very vivid, fittingly. And if you don't mind me reading an excerpt from that document, you said, quote, layers of reverb-soaked guitars and ethereal vocals contrast with the triumphant choruses, eventually building into a monumental sea of guitar psychedelia for the latter half of the song. And that's just like, of all the interview material I've gotten, that's just like the most creative and imagining, I guess. So I guess tell me more about that.
Well, that was written by me, and hopefully you think it's accurate. But I think it's important when you're releasing songs to kind of have a little thing to guide people, especially like music bloggers, journalists, like any press who wants to write about it. You don't want to influence them too much because you want them to form their own opinion, but you do want to just explain what we're about. So to me, I think that description seems accurate to how I feel about the song and like what we were trying to accomplish with uh, the way we wrote the songs.
Right. But I also find it interesting because there's a sense in which, like, like art speaks for itself kind of thing. And not to say that this contradicts it or takes away any value to, because I was written about the title track Out of Focus. But I just find it an interesting, like, chicken and the egg kind of situation where do you think it's like that this, and I mean, from what I'm gathering from this interview, it sounds like more like, well, we just, we try and make sounds to see what comes of it, rather than like the description coming first. But I find this interesting process in displaying the art, I guess.
It's kind of hard to put into words what we sound like, so we had to be a bit more descriptive, because we're kind of going for like what does our music feel like, not so that's we want people to experience that, and we're trying to just like project that feeling into the room when we play live.
Right. All right. So I mean, moving off of Out of Focus, unless there's any other part of the EP you felt like I didn't discuss or go into, I guess I noticed in your backgrounds, you guys, or two of you, did a lot of work with Boston raising powerful musicians. So I guess just as a band, because you're a feminine rock group, do you try and take on any themes of empowerment through your music or as an art form, or I guess what's your whole stance on that?
I feel like that's where authenticity comes back in. Like, we're not necessarily trying to like rally around a cause or do something specific. We're just trying to like exist creatively in the world together and like put that out, and that is powerful.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of who we all are as people too.
Yeah.
So it's gonna come across in our music because it's just part of like all of our personalities and like how we approach the world.
Yeah, and
Right.
also things that we want to express, and like ways we want to sound. You know, like I think it's really empowering to stand in front of a really loud amplifier, the big muff pedal stick, you know. So I think just we're writing dark songs about how we honestly feel. I think that's very empowering.
Right. And yeah, I mean that's honestly the vibe I got from the music. Not to say that like I don't know, everything needs an agenda or not, but I I'm mostly glad that from this interview I'm able to interpret the music correctly, as contradictory as that sounds. But it's just glad to hear that like what I saw is what I'm getting in a way.
We're happy about it.
Yeah. So I guess moving forward with Vivid Bloom, I mean, you guys are on tour right now, or is it just picking up gigs?
We're literally in the van
We're in our
right
tour
now.
now.
Right. And I mean, I guess thanks for the imagery for the viewers at home. I saw that the whole time, but that's the life. um, but I guess after tour, do you guys plan on making a like a bigger album, or do you want to experiment more through EPs?
Yeah, we're working on writing material for our longer release,
Yeah,
hopefully in the next year or so.
it can be a long process because there are so many elements, so many layers, and writing the songs takes a while, recording them takes a long time. But yeah, we're definitely we're working on new stuff and hopefully putting some more recordings out in the near future as well.
Yeah, and we were talking about maybe trying to record a single sometime soon, since nowadays people always drop singles. So yeah, we're gonna kind of figure out our strategy, but our main goal is to write a full-length record soon.
Awesome. And I guess how is it like being new on the scene, or I guess having a new project on the scene? Because I mean, you don't have a lot out there, and it's from what I can tell, a lot of live stuff, which is good. Um, but do you find that like in the modern day, like trying to make a name for yourselves is like what you expected, or a little harder than like what TV and media make it out to be, or
I think part of that goes back to that authenticity where like we're not necessarily trying to make like a name for ourselves. We're just trying to make music and get it out there. And the Boston community is really supportive, and we've all been involved with it in various capacities for so long that like these people are our friends and they want to see us succeed and they like our sound and they know what we sound like in other projects, and they're interested to see what direction we've gone in collectively. And that's kind of how we are approaching things overall.
I think a lot of people too, because our backgrounds all in the Boston music scene sort of overlap, but are very different. So I think a lot of people were like, "Oh, that's the grouping. You guys, I want to know what this is going to sound like." Because we all come from slightly different worlds, but definitely like have like overlapping circles. So I think a lot of people in the in the Boston music community have been really really supportive. I mean it's a small community and everyone kind of knows everyone. So we all have traveled in the same circles, and that definitely helps to have that sense of belonging. People have been really really supportive.
right?
Yeah, and it's been cool because we felt that support in Boston, and we played a handful of shows over the last year, and we were like, okay, we want to do more regional shows. We want to try to like broaden the reach a little bit because we do ultimately want people to listen to our music. We don't have grandiose plans for that or anything, but it's just mostly about like building community. You know, you go to a new city, you meet new people, you make connections, you have new friends, and it's just like such a powerful thing to support other musicians as well. Um, and it's also weird because, you know, we all have been playing music for a long time and just kind of watching the landscape change where it's not about like handing out paper flyers and playing shows every week anymore. It's you can use like digital marketing tools a lot these days and kind of like be seen, but it also feels like there's so much noise and it can be like a full-time job to just compete for attention or compete against Instagram's algorithm or something like that. Which, you know, we sort of participate in because we have to if we want to be seen and heard. But you know, you sort of set a limit for yourself. Like how far do you want to take this? So I mean, it's cool like how powerful some of these tools can be because you know, you look at your Spotify audience or something. It's like, oh, somebody in Germany was listening to our track last week, and you're like, wow, this is amazing. I never would have been able to do that like, you know, 20 years ago.
Yeah, right. So I mean, and I guess about the way listeners at home could listen to your music, and I guess this is just a question from like, as a small band, if if someone is like, I'm going to listen to your EP, but I want you to choose what media I go through, what do you say? Do you say Spotify because it's most convenient, or is it like Bandcamp because they give you money?
Because they're more oriented on connecting artists with fans and giving fans an opportunity to actually support artists. There's more of like a community focus to Bandcamp, whereas, as you know, Spotify, it's just, I mean, everyone uses it. It's convenient, but it's not really a pro artist platform.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess so like, what's your relationship with it? Do you just kind of like post stuff on there because you're like, well, we have to in order for like people to most accessibly listen to your music, or do you try and find a way to like circumvent it and like go through YouTube or whatever,
I mean,
like Bandcamp?
you battles to a certain extent. You know, I mean, there's plenty of people who don't participate in Spotify at all, and absolute respect for that decision. Our stuff is on there. I mean, we don't love it. You know, we're not out here like supporting Spotify in any meaningful way, but it's a tool that gets the job done. So it's cool if people can support local music in a variety of other ways by going to shows, by buying merch, by downloading stuff on Bandcamp, connecting with us directly. If you want to listen on Spotify too, like, do what you got to do with that.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you kind of have to meet people where they are. You know, if somebody's like, all I understand is how to use Spotify, and like I know how to, I know how to just like pump your band name into there and find something, and that helps them engage with us. That's great. You know, like then you go ahead and do that. So that's why we want to be available on like Apple Music and Spotify, and Bandcamp, and all that, so that people have options to do like kind of what works best for them.
Right.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it's like we're not doing this to make money, you know? If we were, we probably wouldn't be musicians. So it's really just about like, yeah, connecting with people, yeah, and just seeing where it sticks, basically.
Right. So I guess moving away from the more like business, financial, whatever, spreading your word out. I guess so when you're live at your shows, what do you guys play? Is it because from what it sounds like, it seems like you do like jam sessions or like your own original stuff and not necessarily just the EP. Um, so I guess I'm a little curious about that whole side of things.
Yeah, I mean, we have, it's all original stuff, but we're not like jamming on the stage, in that sense of the term. I mean,
It's
we're
less
totally
improvised
jamming,
than it might seem.
Yeah.
yeah, no, we have like finished songs, but
Yeah.
we even like, our songs are a little bit longer because there's like some open space to and they have like lots of different parts, lots of movement in the tracks. So the songs range from like 5 minutes to like 7.5 minutes. So we have like 5 songs, and that's a half-hour set. So and that's usually where we're at right now. We're working on some other stuff to like mix in there, but that's kind of what we're playing right now.
Okay, that's good because it's just seeing like because I tried to listen to as much of your stuff as possible, but I was only seeing the EP online, and I get it takes time to produce and everything, but so then I was like, oh well, then what would they play live? But that's good. Um, I I'd love like as soon as I can hear the new stuff, I'd love to hear it. But you know,
Come to El Dorado.
I would, but I'm not of age, so it is El Dorado Bar, unfortunately.
We're really loud.
You'll hear from
You'll
outside.
feel it.
People at home bring
Yeah.
earplugs.
Yeah, I saw the show description. It was like El Dorado Bar, doors at 7, brings the earplugs, just straight to the point. Maybe I'll stay on that side. We'll see. um, but I don't have much else here. Anything else you guys want to discuss? Tell the listeners at home.
We just want to make sure that we tell people like about who's on the bill. We're gonna have Laughing Stock from Brooklyn, and we are on our mini tour right now with fellow Boston Gazers, Slow Quit, and then there's us, of course, and then the local bands to Troy is Otobo, and they're gonna be joining us on the bill, which will be really cool. So we're really excited for the show.
Yeah, it sounds great. It sounds like you're gonna have very. Do you find that your sets are like exciting? Because I feel like with live music, there's this whole like theme of like, oh well, live music's supposed to be energetic, but like listening to the Out of Focus EP, it seems a lot more, I guess, emotional and like not as like energetic rock, if that makes sense. So, what kind of vibe do you go for when you're live?
I feel like we're just trying to wash the crowd. It's like a wall of sound, and we want people to just be like enveloped by that and just then have whatever experience you want to have as a result of that, and then come talk to us about it after you saw us play.
Yeah.
Get them moving, bum them out, send them home.
Yep. Leave the ear ringing. That's the job.
That's why we need to bring earplugs. Safety first.
All right. Well, if that's all, it's been lovely having you on WRPI Troy. If you're ever in Troy again during the actual school year when there's other people on campus, we'd love to have you in live, but you guys seem busy, so we'll see about it.
Yeah. So come out tomorrow.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, no problem. And I was playing your EP right before this. I had to cut it off before the title track, so I'll go play that right now for the listeners at home.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Right. Have a good day and good luck tonight.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. All right, folks. So that was Vivid Bloom, up and coming shoegaze-esque band. And as I promised half an hour ago, here's the final track of Out of Focus, respectively named Out of Focus.